Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. When you get a cold, are you a man? Are you like a baby, like men get, or are you tough? Do you fight through it? That cold knocks me out.
I'm usually pretty tough. I just kind
Yeah,
of like to be left alone.
yeah.
Are you being waited on hand and foot right now, or are you
No,
mounting
no,
up?
no. I'm by myself. Me and the dog.
Yeah,
I took some drugs. Well, actually, forgot about this interview to go get some drugs. So thanks for being patient with me. I apologize.
no problem, buddy.
I shouldn't leave a Hall of Famer sitting in wait. Hey, first of all, trivia question for you. As we talk right now, best team in Major League Baseball. Trivia question. Who is it?
Who has the best record right now? San Diego Padres. We'll see how they go down the stretch. You got to play good all the way through the summer, balls. You
Yeah,
can't.
but listen, you can't win a division in April, but you certainly can lose it in April.
You can play yourself out of it, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So it's getting off to a good start is important in my opinion. Even though it's 162 games, I still think it's important to get off to a good start in
Yeah.
April.
I've never been to that stadium, but I love watching games from that stadium. You have. Where does that stadium rank for baseball stadiums for you?
For me, it's in the top five. I love it. I've been there a few times. I've sat in different locations, and just that whole area around the park too is always what adds to it. You get some parks they're out in the middle of nowhere, and there's nothing to do around the park like they did on the south side of Chicago and the new Comiskey. It just you go to the game and you leave. Where at the San Diego Padres and some of these the ones like Atlanta and these newer ones, they have a whole community built around the park with bars and restaurants and parks. So it's a great experience. So it's definitely in my top five.
I don't know if you're a golf guy, but whether you're a golf guy or you're not, the Masters is something everybody watches. And
Yeah.
it's funny when you're not a pro athlete, you're sitting with your buddies or me with my son. Is the choke artist Rory McIlroy going to do it again? You know what I mean? But you've played professional sports. Watching a guy do it in a singular sport, like it's just him. What's that like watching? Because he gassed that thing twice and then came back to win it.
Yeah. I mean, when he was sitting over that putt on 18, what a 4 or 5 footer, you could see it was getting a little tense there. Maybe a little white knuckling, but to recover and come back on the 19th hole and win was remarkable. But I think it is stressful, but I think those are the kind of the moments you live for. For me as a punter, you're kind of on an island, almost like a golfer. You're kind of on
Yeah.
your own in a way. You come to the sideline, you get support or whatever, a little bit different than a golfer, but you're kind of on your own, and those are kind of the moments you live for, really. You don't get very many as a punter, but as a golfer, you get a lot more. And I think that Rory, I was happy for him that he won it, but I could see there was a little stress there at the same time.
You were a great receiver with the Rams, and we've talked about this before. You probably could have played in the CFL as like a fifth receiver or a
Yeah.
sixth receiver or special teams guy running down, covering punts, not punting them. But maybe that's some of the best advice your dad ever gave you. Go be a kicker.
Yeah, for sure. When I was drafted in '04 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I was actually drafted. You can still go back. It says kicker slash wide receiver. And I got to camp, and kind of the original plan for them was he talked to me, the GM at the time, and he said that I think if you're not quite ready to punt to this level yet, we'll kind of have you on the practice squad as a punter and a receiver, kind of get you some reps at receiver, and you can develop your punting. And I went to camp and had a good camp, and luckily it worked out. But yeah, my dad just kind of said to me, when I came out of because I love playing receiver balls, I absolutely loved it.
Yep.
And coming out, my dad said, well, you can play receiver and probably be a fifth or sixth receiver for 4 or 5 years, and then go on and move and do something else, which is totally fine. Or you can probably punt for the next 10 or 15 years. And luckily, that 10 or 15 years turned into 19 years, and I'm still here talking about it.
And we've talked about this before, but it's a great story because it paints a picture. Like you'd start kicking with either your brother or your friends, and then they'd all go home, and you'd still kick to yourself until the street lights came on, or until you were in a park and it was too dark to kick. At any point in that time, how many times, I guess, probably you did do it, but how many times did you say to yourself, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it, I'm going to be a pro? Or was it just the love of punting the ball that didn't even
I
factor in?
think that was kind of always the goal, and it was kind of always in the back of my head. I didn't really verbalize it a lot. I wasn't a real cocky kid, but I think it was always in the back of my head that I wanted to make it. But more than anything, I just loved kicking footballs. Like I really did. Even if my goal wasn't to make it to that next level, I would have just kept on kicking footballs. It was kind of the first obsession I ever had in my life, and it carried right through till I retired at 41 years old. I absolutely loved every day, looked forward to every day just going on the field or in the park or wherever just to kick footballs.
Yeah. So the GM goes, hey, we'll put you on the practice roster as a receiver slash punter. when did you feel like I made it? Like, was there a punt in a practice, or like how did that come to be that I made the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and I'm a punter? Like,
It
was there
was
one moment?
my first preseason game was in Calgary, and it was me and Troy Westwood kind of competing for the same job. He wanted to kick and punt, and I obviously just wanted to punt. And they left him at home, and they said, "John, you have all the duties today." Just kind of putting the pressure on the kid, the 22-year-old kid, Dave Richards, that it's all on you today. So we get the ball. We're driving down there. The ball's on the 28-yard line. Field goal team. It's on the right hash. I still can picture exactly where it is. Snap comes back. I'm shaking. I'm so nervous, Ballsy. Absolutely shaking. I hit the ball. It goes out of the corner of the end zone. Ballsy. Like this ball wouldn't have made an 8-yard field goal. This ball goes the left side of the end zone. Like I'm going like that's when the wide hat. Like it goes 50 yards across the field out the corner of the end zone. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So the next TV timeout comes by, and they have a fan on the field to kick a field goal to win $100 or whatever. And I've never cheered against the fan because the fans are already yelling at me. I'm like, please miss this, please miss this. And luckily the guy did, so I didn't feel like such an ass. But as that game went on, I started getting more comfortable. I ended up hitting my last 6 field goals in the game. I think I had 10 punts for like a 54-yard average, something like that. Dave Richard gave me the game ball. Said it was the only time he's ever given a game ball in preseason. So after that game, I kind of thought that this might be working out for me. I kind of got into the swing of things, relaxed a little bit, was hitting the ball well, and that was the moment where I was like, I think I'm going to be able to make this team.
I did ask you this a long, long time ago, but refresh my memory for people. I'm not so naive to think that people watch us all the time or watch all our interviews here, but it is a great segment. Kicking It with John Ryan. You can sponsor too. Listen, you're playing in Winnipeg. You're having a great start to your career. How do you go to Green Bay? Like, how does it turn out that you get to the NFL?
Yeah, I had a pretty good year my first year. Not great. I was pretty inconsistent. I don't think I was quite ready for pro football yet. I think I wasn't at the level that I wanted to be at. It was the first year in my whole career where I just punted. I didn't kick. I didn't play receiver. So it was a new adjustment for me. And I kind of figured out that I needed to do something to get the NFL's attention after that first year. So I went back home, took no days off. I actually moved to Portland, Oregon with my sister so I could start to kick outside every day, work out. I gained 29 pounds that off season. I came in, I was like, I just got to put up some gaudy numbers to get recognized by the NFL. Had a really good year, averaged 50-some yards a punt. And then at that time, I moved to Arizona, moved into a Motel 6, and was just waiting for my call. And, got a few workouts. After 3 workouts, all 3 teams offered me a contract. I said, I don't need to keep on doing this. I want to play for the Packers. Ended up signing there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What was your welcome to the NFL moment? Like, what was it? What was it? A punt? Was it a game? Was it a situation? What for you? What's one memory other than yes, you threw a touchdown in an NFC Championship game. You won a Super Bowl that you didn't do much in, thankfully, except for hold on extra points and stuff. So, what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
My welcome to the NFL moment was really, we went through the whole offseason program. Back there, the offseason program was like 13 weeks long. Go through that, and then you get a few weeks off for summer, and then you come back. And Brett Favre wasn't at the offseason program, but he's there the first day of training camp. And I just remember walking in and just seeing Brett Favre. Like, this is the guy I grew up watching. At the time, he was if he wasn't your favorite player in the NFL, he was your second. Like, everyone loved Brett Favre. And I just remember walking in and seeing him there and being in the lunchroom and him like being across from me. And it was just, for the first week, I was always like very aware where Brett Favre was. It was the first time I've ever felt starstruck in my life. And it would happen to be a guy that I was sharing a locker room with. So that's kind of my welcome to the NFL moment. Just being almost like starstruck in your own locker room was weird.
Was there a favorite stadium to play in besides Green Bay and then later Seattle? Like, if it wasn't your home stadium, where did you like to play the most?
I like to play anywhere that's domed. I love playing in Arizona, even back in the day, the old Minnesota Stadium. Not so much St. Louis, but almost any dome I love to play in, just because it was a whole week leading up to any games. You're going to play in KC in December or Green Bay or Buffalo. That whole week as a kicker or punter, you're watching the freaking Weather Network like every day, 5 times a day, trying to figure out what the weather's going to do for you on Sunday, praying for a nice day. When you play in a dome, there's no stress all week in terms of that. You're just getting ready for the game. You're not worried about anything else. So I love playing in all the domes, especially Arizona was kind of my favorite. So
you don't like St. Louis. Is that because they fucked you up on that play? Can you tell me about that play? Was that the one? Was that the fake punt?
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, for some reason, we were such a good team on all those years where we were so good, and St. Louis was not good. and they used to have our number at that place. Every time we went there, something weird. It felt weird as it was because you have to go across 3 time zones. So for us, the game is starting at like 10 in the morning. So your warm-up's really starting at like 8 in the morning. So you're really getting like a 4 a.m. wake-up call. And you walk into this freaking dump of a stadium. It was like a convention center. There's 25, 30,000 fans there. It was dimly lit. Remember one time it was raining outside and it was actually dripping from the roof. And so you get no juice from the fans. Your guys are already tired, and weird things happen to us every damn time we went there, man. Like I swear to God, when they demolish that place, I'm gonna have my popcorn out front, just waiting for it to be imploded because I hated that freaking place.
That is hilarious. Yeah, on that punt though, so you punt the ball down the field, and they had. So just take us through that play because all the guys were under the one side, but you punted it to the other side. What happened on that play?
Yeah, so we're going to what you call a midfield punt. So I'm going to be kicking it to the left. The gunners, all the players are trained to find the returner and go towards him. So the returner, as the ball's punted, he moves to his left. So our players think the ball's going to the right. Meanwhile, they have the one go straight to the corner.
Yeah.
So he goes straight to the corner. All our guys run to the right. I'm screaming my head off. He's all of a sudden he catches the ball on the left side. Our left side, he just has nothing but daylight for 95 yards in front of him, and it was a very clever play. A few teams have tried it since, but they were kind of the originators of it, and it hurt me. It breaks me to still think about it.
So you're a Super Bowl guy. You've made millions. You're married to a great lady, a popular lady, but you're going into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame. Yeah. How big a deal is that for you?
It's a massive deal for me. You know. It's quite the honor, probably the greatest honor that's ever been bestowed upon me. But, you know, I just remember growing up, 7 years old, 8 years old, going there on school field trips, just thinking how great it was, seeing all the old Saskatchewan Rough Riders and their Gordie Howe exhibit, you know, Mary Bonnie Baker, great baseball player, all these people that are from Saskatchewan, obviously, and giving back to the community in their sports so much that, you know, I never thought that I would kind of be sitting along, that my name would be in the same book, my locker or whatever they're going to have for me in the same building as Gordie Howe. You know, that stuff like that, it's mind-blowing to me. I still can't quite believe it's real.
So when guys, like I sat with Jeremy Roenick on the stage in Weyburn, and just before he went into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he picked out some artifacts that he's going to donate. What are you giving to the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. Obviously, my helmet from the Super Bowl, my jerseys from the Super Bowl are already framed in my house. They're not getting those, but some of the more go through my jersey collection and pick out a few of the more memorable ones from seasons. My game ball from the Super Bowl as well, and hopefully a few more other things that I'm kind of looking at. I have to go to the storage unit down the street to kind of dig out some stuff.
Do you like taking a walk? Do you like taking a walk down memory lane?
I really do that. You know, when I was still playing, you know, it was kind of weird. You're so into it, you don't really want to look back. You're just always looking forward. And now that it's all done, it's actually really nice. My wife had a company make me up a career highlight book, and they went back to every article that's ever been written about me, from the Leader Post to the Green Bay. So I'm having like articles from my high school career all the way up to the CFL, NFL, and back to the CFL, all put into one book for me. And it was really nice. And the first time she gave it, you know, definitely I had a few tears in my eyes, kind of looking back on some of those things that happened over that 19-plus year career with the Rams and the Sheldon Williams as well.
Couple more quick questions for you. So let's talk about I have favorite radio announcers, guys that I talk to. Wayne Larrabee, I consider a friend from the Packers. There's a few other guys that I talk to. Did you have friends like you got friends? What I mean is like punter friends or legends like a Bob Cameron. Anybody you talked to or got some tips from as you were going through your career?
You know, it's definitely a guy that I kind of stayed in contact with and talked to all the way through my career was Troy Westwood. You know, he was there. I remember the day I got drafted, Troy Westwood went to the paper and said that he would destroy me and that I was trying to take food off his. So I walked in as a 22-year-old kid at the time, and I looked about 15 years old, scared to death of Troy Westwood. And the guy couldn't have been more welcoming. You know, he talked to me and said, you know, we're going to be friends, but on the field, I do want to beat you. I ended up getting the job, and he kind of gave me so much great advice when I was going to the NFL, and just how to handle so many things through the years, through the media or getting these workouts in the NFL, coming back to the CFL. So he was always a guy I kind of kept in touch with, and he gave me a ton of advice.
Okay, and then I asked you about your welcome to the NFL, your CFL. Do you have a favorite minor football moment, maybe as a little guy or Sheldon or the Rams?
He was, I mean, In 1999, we had a team at Sheldon Williams. It was like we had 28 guys on the team. We were competing up a division. The 4A at the time was the highest division. We should have been a 3A team, and it was like we had 15 guys in 12th grade, and we were just like we were all best friends. We had the greatest time together. We went on. We won the city championship, and like just an unbelievable, most memorable game of my career, really, aside from a couple Super Bowls, but. And then be able to win the provincial championship with those guys, and that's kind of something that we still talk about to this day. I mean, I flew back to Regina in November for the 25th year anniversary. I was back there on the 20th anniversary, and literally, I don't know if we had 28 guys on that team. I swear at least 20, 25 all come every time we do this. So that's kind of my most memorable minor football moment, and it lives on now. 25 years, we're still keeping those memories going.
So the one that you were there, I wasn't in terms of on the field. So you're playing Calgary on that run to the Vanier Cup, and once again it's McMahon Stadium where you missed that field goal grossly with Winnipeg, but you kicked it through the end zone to win the game against the Dinos. Didn't Bernie say, "Don't fucking miss it"? Like, make sure you hammered through.
Yeah, Bernie has a way with words. I absolutely love Bernie Schmidt so much. I'm at that time I'm 18 years old. I think I was the only, because the 97, 98 team, it was about 80% of those guys were still on the team in 2000. Yes. Back brought from junior to the CIAU at the time. So I think the only rookie that traveled. This is an older team compared to other teams, and so I was nervous all the time on that team. So we're at the first playoff game in Calgary. It's coming down the stretch. The game is tied. We're marching the ball down the field, but it's like no time left on the clock. We're gonna punt. We're gonna try to punt for the Rouge, win the game.
Mm-hmm.
We all go out there. I'm just like, I'm shaking, I'm just like, catch the damn ball and punt it, John, And then when they call a timeout, Bernie goes, John, come here, John. He goes, John, knock it through the end zone, man. Knock it through the end zone. I go, yeah, Bernie. He goes, I take 2 steps. I go, John. He grabs me again. He goes, hey, and if you don't, keep on fucking running. Yeah, I love it. I would be getting back on the bus with Bernie Schmidt after that game, and I'm not getting that ball through the end zone. So thank God I did. But we ended up winning that, going on a great run to the Vanier Cup back in 99.
That was a classic.
Back in 2000.
Yeah, that was a classic memory, man. That's too bad that you guys. I don't think you lost to Ottawa. You just ran out of time. That was kind of a bitter loss.
In the first half, I think we were down 28 points in the first half. I think we ended up losing 42-39. But once that offense got rolling, it was hard to stop them. And, it took a little bit. And in the second half, when we started going, you got Shane Ostapowicz and Chris Warnicki and Jason Claremont and Neil Hughes, Dale Leeson, his brother Mike Leeson. When that team got rolling, when you have Neil Hughes, maybe the best running back at the time in the whole Canada West, and you have that receiving core, it was almost impossible to stop them. And in that second half, they got going. And yeah, as you said, we just ran out of time that day.
I don't want to end it on a downer, but I don't want to blow past it either. Bernie Schmidt's wife, Patty, passed away after a long battle with cancer. Briefly talked to Bernie via text. We were lucky to have the likes of Bernie Schmidt and Frank McChrystal and Rick Seaman and on and on and on, Ray Petrie, on and on and on and on for coaches. But it's the wives behind the scenes that were really still part of the Rams family, like Wendy, Patty, those types.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love Patty so much. Actually, Bernie and her came out to a game in, I think it was 2018, or 2017. They came out we went to a baseball game together, and they watched me later on that week when I was playing for the Seahawks. And you're just an absolute great woman. They have 2 sets of twin girls. And, the sacrifice, you look at some of these NFL wives, and they call themselves, coaching widows because they're alone half the year. It's one thing when your husband brings home a $2 million paycheck every year. It's another thing when a lot of those years when Bernie was working, he was working for free. Maybe a stipend at the end of the year. It wasn't until his last, 5 or 10 years after we went to the Vanier Cup where he actually had a full-time job as a coach. And I think he did a little teaching in there too. But they weren't bringing home $2 million, and they were putting in the same amount of hours as these guys. So it's a hard job being a football wife to a player or to a coach, and they have to be saints, to be honest with you. And Patty was probably as close to sainthood as they come.
And that's a good point too. Like you think about how you're standing there on the pinnacle of football, won a Super Bowl, played in another, and wrapped up your career in the CFL. But think of the guys at Sheldon and the Rams that helped you get to where you are. And, they did it for the love of the game and the love of the kids, really.
Yeah, and that's what, obviously you start thinking now that I've had this honor of being will be inducted into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame. I started just writing down names of people that have kind of helped me get there, because I know with that day when I get that speech, I'm not going to be able to read out all those names. So I started making a list of names, and it's in the several hundreds already. You know, when I think back of, you know, Terry Demchek coached me for the PB Steelers, the Ron Turkis, the Tim McFadden's, the guys that ran the scoreboard at the RMF field. You know, like all these Antonini, Len Antonini, all these guys. You could go down the list, and I feel like every 10 or 15 minutes, another 2 or 3 names come to me that guys have helped me, men and women have helped me along the way to get where the people like I stood on to get where I did. It's pretty cool. So, I've just got to, as we go on going towards September 20th, I'm just going to make a list of all those people that I might not be able to thank them directly, but I need to thank them somehow.
Well, I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'm happy you're getting bestowed this great honor, and you prove that you haven't forgot where you came from, and I think that's the coolest thing of all. Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, bud, anytime.
I know you probably get sick of me, Caleb, talking about the Padres, but I wore my shirt for you today because you can't win a division or a World Series in April, but you can lose a division in April. And the Padres are the best team in baseball record-wise. They're fun to watch. A Monday night in San Diego, 47,070 fans. It's an electric atmosphere there.
Yeah, and rightfully so. They have done such a good job of adding to their squad each and every year. They've made a ton of exciting trades over the years. They keep you engaged. They're just a team that was, I think, forgotten for a long time out in California because of the Dodgers in that division. But now there's a lot of people that believe that San Diego is kind of the dark horse. I have thought for the last couple years that they've had a chance to make deep, deep runs. The problem is they've got to go through the Dodgers, but maybe this is the year that San Diego can finally beat up on Big Brother.
Now, you touched on Manny Machado before in an earlier Takin Cuts a few months back. The one thing that's remarkable about him, and maybe as a guy that played with him, do you marvel at how he can make those plays at third base? Like where he'll be on the other side of third base, kind of just flip his arm and it goes right across the diamond, right on the money.
Yeah, he is an incredible talent. Arm strength is through the roof. Probably the best infield arm that I've ever played with or seen live. And I think what he does when he makes those plays is he's able to throw from such a low arm angle as well that people don't realize the difficulty in terms of arm strength and accuracy to make these plays when he's at third base, ranging to his right, catching a ball probably behind the actual base, moving away from the target at first base, and then just almost no look slinging it on the other side of his momentum. Momentum's going towards the third base dugout, the throw's going all the way to the opposite way. I've seen it a million times, and the arm strength it takes and accuracy to make these plays while being totally off balance is unreal. I remember going and in between batting practice one day, I remember going over there at third base and saying, hey, I pointed to the guy that was hitting the fungos. I said, hey, hit me some fungos over here. I'm going to try and simulate some of these plays just to see. I mean, I'm a major leaguer. I'm a major league catcher, but I see what it looks like. And let me tell you, I was throwing bananas over there. I was throwing absolute just grenade bananas, and they were barely making it, but big, huge benders. And the guy at first base was catching at his toes. Manny walks over, he starts chuckling, says, here, let me show you how it's done, man. They hit Manny one ball, he does the move, and it is head high the entire way with no curvature right in the chest. And I thought, that's absolutely unbelievable. What it takes to make those plays are talents that I will never possess.
He's kind of an interesting. Early on in his career, he was kind of vilified. A lot of people didn't like him. And, selfish, doesn't run out to first base. But I really feel like he's become a leader with the Padres. Or was he always kind of a leader? Or has he changed, in your opinion?
He had it in there. He's always had a great heart and a pure heart about what he wanted to do and who he wanted to be and how he wanted to be perceived. I do think as a youngster in the big leagues, fame and fortune gets to you. I mean, 19, 20 years old and on the cover of magazines, top overall picks, it just gets to guys in certain ways. And I think there was a lot of controversy early on, obviously at kind of the Donaldson scrap going back and forth. And then, he had some scraps with Ventura. I do think that one was justified, the Ventura scraps, but he just had some growing up to do. And I can't imagine being a superstar in the big leagues at 20 years old or 21 years old, which is what he was. I felt like I was a child debuting at 27 years old. So he just needed to grow up a little bit. But I am so happy and proud of Manny, just the way he's gone about it. He's turned into a true pro. He's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And he's really stepped into that leadership role, like you've said. The guys trust him, and they know he's 100% trustworthy. They know he wants to win, and he's an amazing player. He's going to be, and he's a great kind of rock for that organization.
And lastly on the Padres their dugout looks collegiate. It looks like they're having fun all the time. Guys are engaged. They're hanging over the railings. When there's a home run, they're all jumping up and down. I'm not saying that's only it's only the San Diego Padres that does it, but it feels like they're kind of like the leaders in that category. It feels like it's a tight-knit team early on.
You can measure that too. I mean, there's ways that you can, in each and every clubhouse, you can measure that. I remember going to certain teams thinking, oh, it's a little bit more dead in here than normal. This is a lively group. Like, you can just kind of tell. And year in, year out, it kind of changes a little bit. But I think Tatis Jr. has a little bit to do with that. He seems like he's got a very fun, energetic, outgoing type of personality. And then you just add in a lot of those complementary pieces. People start to feed off of each other. And winning doesn't help either. I mean, winning doesn't hurt. It always helps. When you're winning, you kind of start to elevate things and you kind of do things maybe you wouldn't do if you were losing, obviously. But yeah, they look like a fun group over there.
So we've talked about important positions, obviously the pitcher and, of course, the catcher is instrumental. One of the most underrated positions is first base. We talk about Manny making those throws, but how about a guy like Luis Ariz who has to pull it out of the dirt or stretch to make the play, to finish that play from side to side? First base, you got to be talented to play first base.
Oh, yes. No question about it. And I would say half of the plays that you see on a Sports Center or on a highlight reel package, there's going to be a just as good of a play on the back end of that as on the front end, like the throw, because it's such a high-speed play. It's such a fast-moving play that you're not going to make it a perfect play every time. And a lot of times you got to have that first baseman over there using tremendous footwork and digging some of those balls out of the ground, or using amazing footwork to even go past the bag. I think that's the most amazing play, in my opinion, is when somebody, maybe an infielder, they throw a ball high and the first baseman retreats and, literally is going backwards as he's reaching up, switching his footwork, crossing the baseline almost towards the, where the coach would stand, reaching up and catches the ball as the runner is passing in front of him. I think that is just an amazingly athletic play, and I love watching those plays. I think Rowdy Tellez is one of the best.
Yes.
I saw him do that a bunch. I've seen him do it once already in Seattle for the Mariners, but you got to have a great first baseman at first to really complete a lot of these plays. I can't tell you how many plays I've seen, Ballsy, where the play is going to be the best ever, and they just can't dig it out at first. And there's no such thing as the almost top 10 plays. It's just you either make it or you don't. And so half the time, I've seen amazing plays that haven't been converted just because of an easy pick or an easy footwork move. But you got to have great footwork over at first base to put yourself in a position where you can dig some of those balls out.
Taking cuts with the major leaguer, Caleb Joseph, and Sportsnet analyst. Okay, so Vladdy Guerrero Jr. gets the money. We were talking, should they sign him? Should they trade him? What do they do? What do you think of that deal? He gets $325 million in a bonus, and he gets that even if they go to an apparent lockout where we're headed in 2026.
Yeah, smart, right? If I was doing it, I would really consider that type of deal as well. And I wonder what this situation with the potential lockout with the agreements. I wonder if that's really playing a role in so many of these extensions. I mean, there's an extension in San Diego that's a pretty good one. So they're everywhere. I mean, it seems like anybody that is an up and comer with a pretty huge upside is being offered one. And I wonder if the possibility of this work stoppage is expediting this process for a lot of not only general managers, but players. But I mean, they had to do it as it pertains to Vladdy Guerrero Jr. They just had to. They had an entire country that wanted him, homegrown prospect, superstar, a generational type player for this organization that wants to be there. They absolutely had to do it. And in my opinion, I think that the president and the general manager probably got to a position where they were super comfortable. I don't know, maybe $400 million, and then just would not move off of that, which I totally agree with that type of evaluation. That's kind of where I was a little bit more comfortable. And then I think the noise grew and grew and grew, and I think the owner probably stepped in and said, okay, you guys can now have plausible deniability. I'm going to step in and I'm going to negotiate this. Because I did see Vladdy's agency at the hotel on opening week. I literally ran into them, and one of their members is a Nashville native, which I have met before, and I ran into him. I said, oh, wow, Shapiro, you are here. This is Vladdy's agent. I said, okay, this is actually real. Talks must be continuing. And he had the smile on his face like he knew he had them right where he wanted them, and he just needed to kind of squeeze a little bit more, and if he showed up, he was going to be able to get what he wanted, and ultimately that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So does that go like Draisaitl signs in Edmonton, so everybody thinks, well, McDavid's going to sign back in Edmonton because they're buddies. Same type of thing? Guerrero, Bichette?
I would hope so. And I've talked to Bo quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years. He's a good friend of mine, and he truly tells me that he wants to be a Blue Jay for his entire career. And there have been times where it might have looked the opposite, looked like he was ready to move on or looked like he wasn't as interested. But I truly believe that he would love to be a Blue Jay from start to finish with one of his best friends, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. I think the key to basically re-signing Bo was to start at Vladdy. I don't think there was any way that Bo was going to sign back with Toronto if it didn't involve Vladdy coming back as well. The biggest thing for Bo Bichette is to be on a winning team. I think that he'll take less than market value to be on a winning team, then go to some garbage team and get above market value in free agency. It's just how he thinks. He's a different type of guy. He wants to be on a winner, whatever it takes. What scares me is he gives me LA Dodger vibes so bad. It's just, he seems like he would be a Dodger and fit as a Dodger perfectly. That's what scares me. But signing Vladdy, I will say, is a huge step forward in re-signing Bo Bichette. And if they can continue to add pieces, Bo's going to buy in. Bo's not going to buy in if he doesn't believe you're continuing to add. So we'll see. But he's primed for a big season. He's already hitting the ball very well.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so, we can make lists and everything. But I would say Kyle Tucker, I watched him last night, probably a top 5 hitter in Major League Baseball. He'd be the big guy on the board, and he's probably smiling like a butcher's dog now seeing Vladdy's contract. And Ricketts, the owner in Chicago, has got to be sweating now.
No question about it. He is ready to be paid, and so much of free agency is when you hit it, who else is in your class, how old you are you coming off of a great, what they call platform year, and Tucker's just hit it perfectly. And I remember playing against him in 2019. He had just been kind of demoted down to AAA, and I was back and forth, and saw this real lanky, wiry kid that had a ton of swing and miss, but man, if he connected, there was something different about the way that he connected. Really good eye at the plate. He was kind of that 3 true outcome before I really knew what was going on with that like phrase in 2019. He literally either struck out, walked, or hit a home run in like the 8 games that we played against them throughout that minor league season. That was pretty impressive. I'd never seen anything like it, that you could have that type of power and plate discipline as well. I did like him too for the longest time because he didn't wear batting gloves, and there's guys that just don't do that anymore. Now I think he had the routine, where he had to grab the dirt and he had to kind of dry his hands off. Well, now with the pitch clock, he's got to be in at a certain time, and so he can't really do his routine. So now he's got to go back to the batting gloves. But I always liked him because he would go up there looking like the 1980s type of hitter. Just get up there and ready to go, no batting gloves. But he's going to get paid. There's no question about it. And when you have that type of confidence, you don't stress. When you don't stress, you play better. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy for him right now. He's in a good spot.
I like the fact you're way younger than me, but you're an old soul. I like the traditionalist in you when it comes to sports. I like guys who don't wear gloves in football and tape up their fingers, like Eric Weddle, the old Chargers safety, and they go out there and make plays. Okay, well, so and don't take this the wrong way. You were a Major League Baseball player, so you were a 1%er. But I think it's kind of interesting. The elite guys are getting money, but the middle class seems like they're being squeezed out. And you were kind of a middle class guy. You weren't elite, but you were a good player. You made some decent money. But do you agree with that? Like, it looks like the middle class is kind of getting squeezed out.
Yeah, well, you trying to turn this into an hour-long podcast? You trying to get me fired up? This is okay. So it's so funny you say this because I firmly believe that there was an all-out war and assault on the middle class about 8-7 years ago, and that's when I started losing my job. A bunch of my friends started losing their jobs. The middle class player I think that they're trying to evaporate that middle class because that's where the majority is. Okay, like the majority is not the 0 to 3 player, and the majority is not the Otanis, the Guerrero Juniors, the Betts, etc. The majority is right here in the middle, and those guys are making anywhere between 1.5 to 4, 5, 7, even like 8, right in the middle. I mean, you could just have this huge clump, and yes, there has been, in my opinion, an all-out assault on that player that is a 6 or 7 year veteran, but not being paid like a 3-year, 10 million annual average. They're that player that may be a 1 year, 4.5, 1 year, 2 million. The backup catcher, like where did that go? That is gone. Like the backup catcher, the veteran backup catcher is gone. Now it's replaced with a $750,000 player, and that's where I laid. I laid right in that middle class area, and especially.
So how does baseball suffer, Caleb, because of that? Because it does suffer, but tell us how it suffers.
In my opinion, the overall product is not as good. Where your 25th, 26th man used to be a 7, 8, 9 year veteran who was making $3-4 million, probably on the back end of his career. Think of like a Nick Punto or even like a Ryan Flaherty, a guy that I played with in Baltimore that had 7, 8, 9 years in. And he was your 26th man. You're paying him $2 million. That just doesn't happen. The secondary catcher always had a lot of service time. So the thing that, for me is it makes the overall product not as good because you have more players that are inexperienced that they're rushing to the big leagues because they can pay them the minimum versus paying the veteran who's more experienced $3 more million, and they justify it in their words because his OPS plus is only 20 points lower. His WAR is projected to be only 0.2 lower. Why would we pay some 35-year-old veteran $3 million when we have a kid that we're pretty sure can do it in the minor leagues? The problem is minor leagues isn't the big leagues. Then they call them up, and then they're inexperienced, and their inexperience eventually shows the numbers at the end of the day might be similar, but you might lose a game because player A that's inexperienced makes a dumb base running mistake, which isn't going to show on your final line, or he doesn't throw to the right cutoff man, or he's just not mentally prepared, blah, 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 blah. Whereas the veteran, you know it's going to happen. That's how I think. I think it's an overall not as good of a product. The best are still really good. The newer guys are still really good, but that middle group, to me, has really suffered.
I agree. Okay, I won't keep you too much longer. But I will, because we're on a pitch clock. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? I'm just getting back. Maybe it's because my team's been pretty good for the last 3 years. Usually the Padres were out in May, and you just, kind of, and a good chunk of teams were like that, or still like that. My team not so much lately. So I get into it a little bit. I'm watching more of the games. I probably watch. Honestly, probably 100 of 162, to be honest, and that's a crazy amount. That's a crazy amount for me. But I'm telling you, and baseball's done some good things with the pitch clock and the wider bases and interviewing guys during the game. I like all of that. They can't afford another lockdown, another lockout. That's like that. They got to try to avoid that.
The game, in my opinion, is growing at a rate that both sides are very, very happy with. Obviously, looking at these contracts that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, that nobody's going to an owner with a pitchfork in his hand, forcing him to hand out these contracts. And they do it multiple times because it makes them money. It makes them money. So the sport is in an amazing place. Both sides are really benefiting. This has been going on, Michael, for years and years and years. What is it? 8 work stoppages, I think, throughout the history sport. But it always centers around one thing: free agency and salary caps. And it's always going to be that way. It will always be a fight, and it will never change unless the players change. So for me, this is just another merry-go-round. Here we go. Every 4 years, it's the same thing. Owners want a cap. They're going to start using different words to basically try and come up with the exact same arguments. Owners want a soft cap, hard floor, blah, 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 blah. They've been doing this for 35, 40 years. Like, they've been trying to put in limitations forever. And unless the players cave, it won't work. It'll maybe lead to a little bit of a disruption, just like it did a couple years ago. But then you move on, and before you know it, everybody's happy again. And then you just wait and brace for impact in the next one.
Yeah, and so here's my grandpa told me a couple of good things, but one thing that always stuck with me is perception is everything and facts are negotiable, okay? So the Dodgers win and it's perceived, the Dodgers and the Yankees, they just buy their championships. Well, the Dodgers ended they ended a drought there to win, but the last team that repeated was back like the 2000 Yankees. Like, it's not like it's perceived to be. Yes, those teams are always in the mix, but they're not winning every year.
Right. And don't forget, not last year, but the year before, there was a little team out in Arizona that was in the World Series. And what was their payroll? It was like 97 million. It was, they were unexpected. And so you make a great point that it's not as if people are buying championships. If that was the case, the Mets would already have one. If that was the case, the Padres would already have one. If that was come on. You can't buy them. The Yankees have tried to buy them for the last, 18, however many years it's been since they've won one, and they can't. They're trying to buy one.
Yeah.
You got to have good players. You got to have great coaches. You got to have all of the intangibles. Now, it does seem like an unfair and uncompetitive balance, not balanced, but uncompetitive state that the Dodgers get into when they basically buy the best players. But, hey, I love that. I love that because I want the other teams to feel like they got to go in and start bidding. Like, I'm a free market guy. Say what you want, but I like that because I think the best players should be should be acquired by the best teams, and everybody should be in on them. That's just how I feel. I think it just raises the floor, in my opinion.
One more question for you as it relates to the Blue Jays. Jose Barrios, he's I don't know, has he met expectations? He was good there for a bit, but I don't know, your thoughts on him to start this year and just overall coming over to the Jays.
Yeah, I think if you look from start to now, overall, it's been a very nice acquisition. There was the year, I think it was his second year, that was just a total downer. The
Yeah.
first year was good, third year very good. Um, he's just getting to that age, in my opinion, where you've got to really make sure that you can get pitches to the spot because so many players now in the league, when you get to Jose's age and his experience, so many players have faced you now. And so the intrigue and the surprise of what you bring and your deception and your pitch shapes, players are more accustomed to that, and it becomes easier for players to hit off of you. I remember facing CC Sabathia many times. The first couple times I faced him, it was just unique. I hadn't seen a lefty that was that large at that arm angle cutting the ball into me like that before, the way he did it at a little bit of a higher height. I just hadn't experienced that. But being in the AL East and facing CC Sabathia so many times, as the more times that I faced him, it actually got easier. And his stuff wasn't really diminishing. It was just the more I saw it, the more I could game plan and anticipate it. Well, Jose's in that exact same position right now. So for me, the long answer is yes, and then explain everything exactly why. But the short answer is it's been a good acquisition. He's just at that point, in my opinion, where he's got to get pitches to the spot, and sometimes he still sprays it and he still puts it in the middle. And man, when you get to that position where people have seen you enough and you're not hitting your spots, you're going to give up some hard contact. But then he can turn around and strike out 11 the next start. So it's still in there. If I was catching him, I would be saying, hey, bud, we've got to make sure that we focus more on location than nastiness of stuff, if that makes any sense. So that's what I would be doing at his age with where he's at. But he has been good. He will be good as long as he can just make sure he gets the pitches to the spot.
This guy is anything but middle class. He is our buddy Caleb Joseph. Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Former NFLer and CFLer Patrick Johnson joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us. Now, you're here in the capacity as president of the Global Flag Football League. Tell us about it. How many teams? Where are the teams? Give us the rundown here, my friend.
Well, right now we're fielding 15 teams. The majority of the teams, like we call them member organizations, they're in most cities where there's an NFL franchise, and most of the leaders of these member organizations are former NFL players. We're in, right now, we have member organizations in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Diego, Dallas, Fort Worth, Miami, Tampa, Daytona Beach, Atlanta, Canton, Ohio. I don't know, I left a few out, but Arizona,
Yeah.
So. But we're just continuing to build and expand into additional markets, which we will be announcing after our tournament, our Pro-Am tournament this August out in Vegas.
Yeah, out in Vegas. Tell us a little bit about that tournament and the premise behind it.
Well, the reason why we decided to have this tournament was that we were just behind the 8 ball in preparations to try to have a complete 2025 season. The logistics behind it, making sure you have the financial wherewithal to get through the inaugural season. We didn't make enough headway last year in order to be properly set in motion to be able to have a full season, with teams in all these markets, and then coordinating with travel and just all the things that are necessary when it comes to try to roll out something like this. So we decided to, for this year, kind of just give like a little test or a little taste test of what the Global Flag Football League will be about going into the 2026 season by having this tournament. Where it'll be single elimination and a big prize that'll go to the winning team, both men's and women's.
Yeah, men's and women's. So talk about that. How big are these rosters, and where are you getting the players from? Tryouts, that type of thing, Patrick.
Well, the players, the roster size are going to be 12 because it's 5-on-5
Right.
flag, right? So there's 12 women and 12 men, but they're both on the same roster.
Okay.
They're on the same team, and so you'll have you have men and women on the same roster. Now they don't play each other, but they're on the same team. And I figured this structure was better to eliminate any misconstruing of the fact that there is an equal footing for both men and women. So by putting them on the same roster, the coaching staff will have both men and women on it, and they'll both coach the men and the women. So we'll eliminate that conversation of there any potential issues of unfair treatment or unequal treatment by men and women. So we just put everybody together. Everyone's on the same team, but the men play the men and the women play the women. So there's 24 players on each roster, and I think there's going to be between 4 and 6 coaches, I believe.
So help me out here. I'm just a simple podcaster, radio guy. Okay. So
Yes.
Let's take it. Was San Diego Lightning? I think does that have to do with the Chargers? That was my favorite team. The San Diego.
That would
San
be why they're
Diego
called the Lightning.
Yeah, so let's take the Lightning for example, okay? So you have a men's and a women's Lightning team, but they're all on the same team. Is that why you call them member organizations then?
Yes. Yeah. And plus, due to regulations regarding franchising and things of that nature, I think this is a better way to structure things organizationally without the regulatory headaches of franchising out businesses and stuff like that. So that's why we call them members.
So Global Flag Football League, is it going to be deemed professional flag football eventually when you get to it?
Well, no, this is professional,
Okay.
because everyone's going to be getting paid.
Okay.
Right. This will be professional. This isn't like this will be a dramatic step up from your weekend warrior who sitting at the bar on Friday night drinking a pint and smoking a cigarette. Like that guy can't play. You know what I mean? Hey, guys like us can't play.
Yeah. Well, I don't smoke, and I've never smoked. I don't drink much, but I could maybe run a hitch pattern or a slant, and that would be it. I'd be out.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I don't smoke, but I do occasionally have a drink or two. And so
if I read it correctly, Patrick, you were going to be an owner, or you were an owner for the Las Vegas team, and then they elevated you to president. Tell me about that.
Well, that's kind of how how everything happened. I was, and right now, I still do own the Vegas membership, but I will be putting a team in place to run that organization, and then probably bless somebody with, giving it to them at some point. But yes, that's how it initially started. But then once we started getting further into it, I guess there was a need for, some help in terms of, getting things moving at the league level so that we could get it off the ground. So. They asked me to step up and help do that. So, but it's good. It's good. We made a lot of headway in the last, few months, and look forward to, getting the tournament on schedule and off the ground.
What's the most challenging thing for a guy that's a president of a fledgling league that has the potential to take off? I mean, flag football, you're talking to a guy that's in Regina, Saskatchewan, and from your time in the CFL, we'll talk about that. But the Regina Flag Football League, the NFL Regina Spring Football League or Youth Flag Football League, I think it was last year, was named the NFL Flag Football League of the Year. It started like 18 years ago with 75 kids, and all of
Yes.
a sudden, 17 years later, 3,200 kids are playing. So the thing you're talking about has potential to really take off with the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. I know you guys that's what you're, whetting the appetites, getting people ready for that. But what's the biggest challenge for you in a fledgling league to be the president?
I think the challenge has been really just organizationally setting the benchmark on how things are going to operate. How we approach every day, what our goals are, how we're going to get there. I think just building a roadmap is really the most difficult thing. But once you build the roadmap, all you have to do is just keep the car on the road at that point, And so we've done a great job of organizing, planning, knowing where we want to be, in the next 2 or 3 years, and we've just been keeping the car on the road, and things have been progressing very nicely for us.
Patrick Johnson joining us here, former Super Bowl champ with the Baltimore Ravens, played in the CFL with the then Eskimos, the Argonauts, so we can touch on that too. You know football, tackle football, but how big can flag football get? We're trying to make the football game as safe as we can, the tackle football game, but we can only make it so safe. So that opens the door for something like flag football. How big do you think this can get? Like you talked about a 2 to 3 year plan.
No, I believe that particularly for the women, I believe that flag football will be the largest sport globally for women above all sports. Because everyone can play it. Everyone can play it in any corner of the world. It's like soccer, and all you need is some cleats and a ball, right? You don't need a bunch of equipment. And the physical side of the game of football is removed. So you're looking at a totally different approach to the game of football with different rules. If you have really good athletes, you can. It's really exciting, and it's something it's not new, but it's new. You know what I mean? Because people are starting to see it in this application, particularly as a professional sport. It's going to open a door for a lot of different kinds of athletes. And I reflect on, go back to on the women's side. I do think it's going to be the most popular sport for women after the Olympics around the world, because I think the Olympics, it's going to show. I mean, you look at Mexico right now, they probably have the best women's flag football team. Their national team is one of the best in the world. But you're going to get a chance to see a lot of different countries that are going to instantly be very competitive, because, I mean, every country has quick and fast people that can be great athletes.
So let me paint a picture here, or paint a picture for me in my mind. I'm trying to picture this, okay? Like I've coached flag football. The beauty of it is here in Regina, when we were in the NFL Flag Football League, I'm sure it's similar all over. The kids play. One year they're the Colts, one year they're the Bengals. They're interchangeable jerseys, and they get to keep the jerseys at the end of the year, okay? So I get the premise of flag football, but I'm just trying to picture it in professional football. Like I've gone to lacrosse, professional lacrosse, the music's pumping, it's a party-like atmosphere. Where will the games be played? What will it look like? Like what fields are you going to play and that type of thing?
Well, for the tournament, we're going to play games at high schools.
Okay.
And the reason why we're going to do that is because it's going to allow for community involvement, right? The tickets are going to be free.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you have that atmosphere, it's like a high school football game.
Right.
You got the band out there, you have cheerleaders out there, you'll have music, you'll have your PA announcer. And it'll look really good on television when you see packed stands. It doesn't mean that they have to be huge, like a huge stadium, but I think it's going to have a really good effect on television when it's filmed. But I think getting this out there would be best to drive it through, your local community there, wherever you're playing, So we're gonna make that approach first.
Okay, so in August, this tournament in Vegas, do you have a TV partner? Will we be able to watch it? Will it be streamed on a YouTube channel? I think you guys have a YouTube channel. Where can we take this in?
Well, we'll definitely at least stream it on YouTube, but we're in the process right now of identifying a partner that will go with us and stream this event. Yes.
Okay, awesome, man. You talked about NFL players being involved. Besides yourself, a Super Bowl champ, can you give us some of the other names of the guys that are involved with these teams off the top?
Yes, we have Akili Smith, who played for Cincinnati Bengals in Calgary.
Yeah.
You have Reuben Drones, who was a running back for the Denver Broncos. He never played in Canada. You have good grief. Let me see here.
I put you on the
Oh
spot.
gosh, big lineman from Miami. I'm not looking at the list, but there's quite a few.
Okay.
You know, on every team, I think, with the exception of one member. He's a non-NFL player, but has been very instrumental in doing a kid's flag. You know, in where he's at. I think New Mexico doesn't have a former player as an owner, but he's well versed in the sport and very involved in the local community down there in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Okay.
But there's a number of former players, and there'll be more. See, we'll announce after the tournament. We'll announce the remaining cities, which will have more players that are, running these member organizations. I mean, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. You're going to have Kansas City. You're going to have Seattle. You're going to have New England. You're going to have Green Bay. Every city. And then also, we're also planning on expanding into Canada and also having member organizations in every city where there's a CFL team. Regina,
Winnipeg.
I think Regina, Winnipeg, Vancouver, British Columbia, Toronto will have Mississauga and Toronto. You'll have Hamilton. You'll have Montreal, because we want to round out and have an even number of teams. So plus Ottawa, so that'll round out the 10 that we're in the process of rolling out there. We're gonna put probably another 10 in Mexico. We're probably gonna put. We're working with plans to also have a league in Europe as well.
Wow.
So what the game plan is to not only have a full slate of teams playing here in the U.S., but also have a full slate of teams playing in Canada, have a full slate of teams playing in Mexico, and at least, the very least, have another full slate of teams playing throughout Europe and then into Africa.
Wow.
And probably somewhere in Asia, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
But so the plan would be to not only have players from the GFFL playing on a U.S. Olympic team, but also have players from the GFFL playing on the Canadian Olympic team, and also have them playing on the Mexican Olympic team.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very doable. I think it's very doable for us.
Wow, it's timely too with the Olympics here. That'll be a nice sampling for people. Okay, who haven't really been into flag football. It's like, okay, and like you said, it's transportable because the equipment, you don't have the injuries. It's that you can play flag football in the Olympics, where tackle football would be almost an impossibility.
Well, yeah, and plus, everybody's not, in North America, not just in North America, but North America is one of the few places where, for playing football, you can find people that are big enough to play, right? Right, and so,
For sure.
but with flag football, it's not about how big you are.
No.
It's about how good of an athlete you are.
Yeah.
And there's great athletes all over the world, and that's why it'll be on full display in the Olympics. And the sport's very exciting, very exciting.
Hey, Patrick Johnson, you played in the CFL for a couple of seasons. What did you think of our game? What did you think of the Canadian Football League? It was quite a departure from what you were used to growing up in the States.
Yeah. You know what? I right when I started getting the feel for it, I was already out of the league, and nobody would sign me.
Yeah.
It was done. Because obviously when you go from 11 players to 12, your field dimensions are wider, just to where you're placing the ball on the hash marks or anywhere in between the hash marks dramatically changes the game. It dramatically changes the game. And then having the additional player, trying to read coverages on a 12-man field is dramatically different than trying to read coverage playing American football. So, there's just a learning curve that had to happen there, but I really enjoyed it. Especially coming from Baltimore, where we weren't specifically or traditionally known to throw the ball a lot. It provided for enough opportunity to catch a lot of footballs. So I really enjoyed it and have a lot of respect for the game, Canadian football, the way they play it up there. And now you've seen over the last 20 years how you've started to see the two games kind of start to blend together, particularly with the run-pass option. The run-pass option in Canadian football, where the quarterback always has the option to pull the ball, and then, there's always routes being ran off of that. That's where that came from,
Yeah,
and so
I agree. The NFL, and they're the juggernaut, but they've taken a lot of our things. Like you said, the Kyler Murrays and those kind of quarterbacks, they would never have gotten a shot in the NFL. They'd be up in the CFL playing before. Now they're getting more of a shot. The extra point, moving it back to the 32-yard line, that started in the CFL. That didn't start in the NFL. That started in the CFL. So here's a question for you. Do you ever think, because they always want to push the envelope for the offense in the NFL, do you think we'll see a waggle in the NFL one day like they do in the CFL?
I don't know. I think that the field dimensions are as such to where it's going to create more of an unfair advantage, right? The waggle, getting a 10-yard head start, I don't know. But maybe, because right now, in American football, everybody's got to stay static except for one person, and he has to be doing horizontal motion across the field, right? He can't just, I don't know. But you might see it.
They're starting to push the boundaries. Like some teams are getting that guy out wide, and they're starting to swing it out to him where he's still running horizontally but not vertically. But he's already kind of got momentum.
You just start getting pushed back here after too much, But I think they should look at expanding the size of the field.
Yeah,
it'll reduce injuries for sure.
Yeah. My last question to you. Like, it was nice to win a Super Bowl in Baltimore, okay? But you kind of touched on it there, and I always wondered from a receiver's perspective, how unexciting, I don't want to say it was boring, but how unexciting was it to play in Baltimore at that time as a receiver? Because receivers want to touch the ball. You guys didn't throw the ball a lot.
Well, we did take a lot of shots. Go back at the Super Bowl. I had an opportunity to potentially have 2 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah.
But you're gonna in offense, when we were so talented though that across the board we were very talented. But when you have a special teams unit that's arguably probably the best in the league, we definitely had the best return man in the league.
Yeah.
And we had the best defense in the league and the best running game in the league. You have to lean on that to win.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm older, I appreciate it more. I understand why we didn't throw the ball as much as we did back then. I totally understand it now, because if I were to be having a team like that, then I would have played to those strengths as well. But still took the shots. One thing I would say that, even though I didn't catch a lot of passes, just having me standing out there dramatically affected the way the defense was playing, because of the threat of getting the ball thrown over your head when you have to have the safety down in the box. Everybody we played had to have the safety down in the box, because he either had to try to cover Shannon Sharp or have to tackle Jamal Lewis. So you just have to play to your strengths, and those are the strengths that we had. We had other strengths, but you can win. You can dominate and win if you have that mixture on your team. You can win almost every game.
Yeah. What's your one memory from that game, beating the Giants in the Super Bowl? Tampa, I believe you played there. What was the one memory?
Those passes I didn't catch.
So was that kind of you won the ring, you got the ring, you have that forever, but does that eat at you? Because
it did. Honestly, it did for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it could really affect the trajectory of your career.
Yeah.
And one of the things my high school coach used to always say is, You never get those plays back, so you have to take advantage of the moment while you can. And then, I carry that on the end of this business. It's the same thing. We're really poised to do something really exciting with the GFFL, and as long as we can just take advantage of the opportunity that we have here and roll this out correctly, I know this is going to be very successful.
You got to be excited.
We just have to just go to put in the work.
Yeah, you got to be excited. Last question for you. Young Patrick Johnson, how much would he been chomping at the bit? I know you were a professional at the highest level, but how much would you be chomping at the bit to play in a GFFL?
Well, it would, one of the things that we want to eventually get to, like in 2026, we're going to have a compensation package, that it'll be refreshing to the marketplace, because you're going to have another league that's paying a livable wage to the players who play, right? And then we expect after that first year for it to begin to get even better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
So we want to turn this into a situation where people can make millions playing the sport.
Yeah.
That's
NFL guys, maybe a Patrick Johnson in his twilight of his NFL career, he could if he had a couple of years left in the tank. By 31, they're already pushing guys aside. Maybe that 31-year-old Patrick Johnson can play a couple of years and bring some marquee power to a league.
Right. You could absolutely, and we're going to do that. And then especially if you look at that, let's just take a guy who was an All-American sprinter in college. Let's just say it was Patrick Johnson. Say a guy that was an All-American sprinter in college and played in the NFL and played in Canada, and he's 31, but he wants to try to make the Olympics.
Yep.
This is a way for him to get on the U.S. Olympic team. Yeah. Without being the fastest person on the Olympic team, because you got a track team for that. But there's an opportunity there for a guy like that, or a girl like that, for that matter. So it could be a woman who was a all-star lacrosse player in college or something like that, or field hockey or something like that, or maybe even a professional ballerina who wants to come out, or maybe somebody who just works at home as a housewife or something like that was a really good athlete in high school and college. Hey, or maybe even somebody fresh out of high school.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hey, Patrick, it's been a great time talking to you. So we got this tournament in August. If they want to get more details besides this podcast, where can they find information on the GFFL?
Yes, at gffl.pro is the website, and we'll begin to start pushing out additional information as we get closer. You could go to the news section on the website, and you can see all the press releases that we have written up to this point, so you can get up to speed. And then we'll be constantly putting out more info as we get closer.